The night sky over the small town of Pine Ridge, Colorado, was clear and full of stars. Liam Harper sat alone in the old observatory on the hill. He was 32, with short brown hair and tired eyes from too many late nights. The observatory belonged to the local college, but Liam ran it mostly by himself. He liked the quiet. He liked looking at things far away. That night he pointed the telescope at the outer edge of the solar system. Something moved. Not a satellite, not a plane, not even a comet. It was too big and too fast. He checked his computer again. The screen showed dozens of objects coming in from beyond Pluto. They moved in perfect formation, like soldiers on parade. Liam's hands started to shake. He grabbed his phone and called Noah Ellis at NORAD. Noah was a friend from school days. He worked in a dark room full of screens, watching space for threats. Noah picked up on the second ring. "It's 2 in the morning, Liam said. "Get your team on this now. Big shapes just appeared outside Neptune's orbit. They're coming straight for us." Noah was quiet for a second. Then he said, "Send the data." Liam sent everything: coordinates, speed, size. The objects were huge. Each one was longer than an aircraft carrier. There were hundreds of them. Within 30 minutes, alarms sounded in military bases around the world. In Washington, people woke up presidents and generals. In Beijing, Moscow, London, Tokyo, the same thing happened. Phones rang, computers beeped. Everyone asked the same question: who are they? The aliens called themselves the Krell Dominion. Their ships slowed down near Jupiter. They did not hide. They wanted to be seen. A message came to every radio, every television, every phone on Earth. The voice was deep and calm, speaking perfect English, then Spanish, Mandarin, Arabic, and every other language at once. "People of Earth, we are the Krell. Your world is now part of our domain. You have one Earth day to surrender. Lay down your weapons. Open your cities. Obey our orders. If you resist, we will remove your species. The choice is yours." The message ended. Silence followed. In the White House, President Olivia Grant stood in the Situation Room. She was 51, with gray streaks in her dark hair, and a calm face that did not show fear. Around her sat advisors, generals, scientists. They all looked at the big screen showing the alien fleet. "How many ships?" she asked. "Over 400 confirmed," a general said. "Each carries weapons we cannot match. Their shields stop our best missiles. Their energy weapons can burn cities from orbit." Olivia nodded slowly. "And their troops?" "Unknown, but scans show landing craft. Thousands of them." She turned to her chief of staff. "Get me the leaders of Russia, China, Europe, India. We need to talk, now." Across the planet, people reacted in different ways. In New York, crowds gathered in Times Square and stared at the screens. Some cried, some prayed, some took videos for social media. In small towns, families sat together in living rooms. Parents held their children close. In Wichita, Kansas, Emma Carter watched the message on her old television. She was 38, a former Marine who now ran a small auto repair shop. Her hands were still dirty from fixing a truck earlier that day. She turned off the TV and walked to her garage. Inside were boxes of hunting rifles, ammunition, and tools. She started unpacking. Her phone rang. It was her brother Oliver. He lived on a farm 30 miles away. "You see it?" he asked. "Yeah," Emma said. "What do we do?" "We wait," she said, "and we get ready." In California, Sofia Ramirez sat in her small apartment. She was 29, an engineer who worked on drones for a tech company. She watched the news while drinking coffee. Her laptop was open. She pulled up every file she had on alien contact theories, old military reports, and even science fiction stories. She did not panic. She thought. Her roommate Mia Lopez walked in. Mia was 27 and worked as a nurse. "Are we going to die?" Mia asked. "Not today," Sophia said. Not if we fight smart. In the Pentagon, Henry Brooks sat at a long table with other planners. Henry was 45, a quiet man who had studied every war in history. He looked at maps of the planet and the incoming fleet. "They think we're weak," he said to the room. "They see rockets from the 1960s. They see satellites. They see no big space navy, so they come in proud." A young officer spoke up. "Sir, our missiles won't touch their shields." "Then we don't use missiles the way they expect." Back in space, aboard the flagship of the Krell fleet, Commander Varric Thule stood on the bridge. He was tall, with gray skin and 4 arms. His eyes glowed yellow. Around him, officers watched screens that showed Earth, blue oceans, green lands, white clouds. "Primitive," Varric Thule said. "No orbital defenses, no fleet, no unified command. They will kneel by tomorrow." One officer spoke carefully. "Commander, our records show this species fights often, among themselves." Varric Thule waved a hand. "Internal conflict is weakness. They destroy their own world. They will not stand against us." He gave the order. "Prepare landing forces. Target resource zones first. North America, Eurasia, South America. Take the land, take the water, take the people." The fleet moved closer. Dropships detached like seeds falling from a tree. They entered the atmosphere over empty plains, deep forests, wide deserts. The first ships touched down in Kansas, in Siberia, in the Amazon, in Australia. On the ground in Kansas, a farmer named Elijah Thompson stood on his porch. He was 62, with rough hands and a shotgun leaning against the wall. He watched the sky turn bright as a ship landed 2 miles away. Dust rose in a cloud. Strange machines walked out. Elijah went inside. He called his neighbors. "They're here," he said. "Bring what you got." In cities, people started to move. Some ran to shelters. Some grabbed cars and drove away from big targets. In basements and garages, groups formed. Teachers, mechanics, students, parents. They talked fast. They made plans. Back in Colorado, Liam stayed at the observatory. He kept watching the sky. More ships came. He sent updates to Noah every few minutes. Noah called him back. "Liam, they're landing. Not in cities, in open land. They want resources first." Liam looked out the window. Far away, lights moved in the dark. "Then we make it expensive for them." In Washington, President Grant spoke to the world on every channel. "My fellow Americans, and people of Earth, today strangers came to our home. They demand we give up. They think we are afraid. They think we are soft. They are wrong. We have faced storms, diseases, wars, hunger. We have lost people. We have cried. But we never stopped. We built homes from dirt. We flew to the moon. We cured sickness. We help each other when the world breaks. Today the world is breaking again. But we are still here. We are still us. To the invaders, you want our planet. Come take it. You will find out what humans do when someone tries to take what is ours. To every person listening, stay strong, help your neighbor, fight smart, survive. We will win this. Because this is our home, and we do not give up our home. Silence covered the planet again. Then slowly, people started to move. Not in fear, in purpose. In garages, rifles were cleaned. In kitchens, food was packed. In factories, machines were turned on. In schools, teachers told students to be brave. The Krell had come for an easy victory. They had no idea what waited for them. They began the invasion of Earth. No one told them who we truly are. The first Krell dropships landed on the wide flat plains of central Kansas just after sunrise. The air was cool and still. Golden wheat fields stretched in every direction under a pale blue sky. The ships came down slow and quiet, their black hulls shining like wet stone. Landing legs extended with soft thuds, Doors hissed open. Out walked the Krell soldiers. They were tall, over 7 feet, with thick gray skin and 4 arms. Their armor was smooth and dark, glowing faintly with energy fields. Each carried a long weapon that hummed with power. Walkers followed, big machines on 6 legs, armed with cannons that could melt steel. Commander Varakthul watched from his command ship in orbit. His voice came through every soldier's helmet. Secure the zone. Claim the resources. The natives will come soon. They will see our strength and submit. The Krell moved out in neat lines. They planted marker beacons that sent signals back to the fleet. Drones flew overhead, scanning for movement. Nothing. The fields looked empty. Varakthul smiled with sharp teeth. Easy. 5 miles away, Emma Carter crouched behind a low hill covered in tall grass. She wore old camouflage pants and a dark jacket. Her rifle rested on a bipod. Around her, 12 neighbors waited in silence. There was Jake, a mechanic who fixed tractors. There was Maria, a high school teacher who knew first aid. There was young Caleb, only 19, who flew drones as a hobby. They had come together in the night after the president's speech. Emma looked through her scope. She saw the Krell patrol moving toward an old grain silo. The walkers stepped carefully, crushing wheat under metal feet. Emma whispered into her radio. "Wait for my shot. Hit the legs first, then run." She breathed slow. Her finger rested on the trigger. The lead walker paused. It scanned the area. The rifle cracked. The bullet hit the walker's knee joint, not to penetrate the armor, but to jam the servo. Sparks flew. The machine stumbled. At once, the others fired. Hunting rifles popped from different spots. Bullets pinged off armor, but a few found weak points, joints, sensor eyes, power cables. One Krell soldier dropped, clutching a leg. Another raised his weapon. Before he could fire, Caleb's small drone buzzed in low. It carried a homemade charge. The drone slammed into the soldier's chest plate and exploded. The blast knocked him down. The Krell reacted fast. Their weapons lit up. Blue plasma bolts burned lines through the grass. One bolt hit near Jake. Dirt exploded. He rolled away, cursing. Emma shouted, "Move! Move!" They fell back, running low through the wheat. The Krell chased, but the walkers were slow on uneven ground. One tipped when its leg caught a hidden ditch. The humans disappeared into a dry creek bed. The Krell stopped. Nothing. The patrol pulled back to report. Varakthul received the message. Losses: 2 soldiers wounded, 1 walker damaged. He frowned. Primitives with toys, increased patrols, burn any resistance. More dropships came down across the planet. In the Amazon, Krell troops cut through jungle with energy blades. Local fighters waited in trees and used poison darts tipped with chemicals from plants. In Siberia, snow hid snipers who picked off officers from miles away. In Australia, outback riders on dirt bikes harassed supply lines with Molotov cocktails made from farm fuel. The Krell expected armies in uniform. They found farmers, shop owners, students, grandparents. People who knew the land. People who did not stand in lines to fight. They hit and ran. They used old roads, hidden trails, storm drains. Every time the Krell pushed forward, they paid in blood and metal. In Washington, Henry Brooks worked in a deep bunker under the Pentagon. Screens covered the walls. Reports came in from every country. He drank black coffee and spoke to a room full of officers. "They land in open places," Henry said. "They think control the high ground. But we own the ground. Every hill, every river, every street. Make them pay for every step." A map showed red dots, Krell positions. Blue dots, human groups. The blue dots moved like water around rocks, never still, always striking. In California, Sofia Ramirez sat in a dark garage turned workshop. Lights hung from the ceiling. Tables were covered with pieces of Krell tech, broken weapons, armor plates, circuit boards. Her team worked fast. A young man named Lucas used a blowtorch. A woman named Grace tested wires. Sophia held up a small device. It looked like a phone charger, but it hummed. This is from their comm unit. I cracked the signal. We can jam their short-range talk. Make squads blind to each other. How far? 2 miles. Maybe more if we boost it. They built 10 more that night. Trucks carried them to nearby hills. When Krell patrols came close, the jammers turned on. Alien voices cut to static. Orders stopped. Confusion spread. One patrol in Oregon walked into a trap. They followed a fake signal into a narrow valley. Rocks rolled down from above. Old mining explosives went off. The patrol was buried under dirt and stone. Only one survived to crawl away. Veraxthol grew angry. He ordered orbital strikes. Beams came down from space. They hit empty factories, abandoned fields, ghost towns, warnings he called them. But the people were not there. They had moved. They watched from far away. Each strike taught them more. The Krell wasted power. Humans saved theirs. In Kansas again, Emma's group grew. More people joined. A doctor named Ryan brought medical supplies. A truck driver named Ben brought fuel. Classrooms became sleeping areas. The gym became a supply room. The cafeteria cooked food from canned goods and hunted deer. Emma stood in front of them at night. Lanterns lit her face. We hit them again tomorrow, she said. Small, fast, no heroes. We hurt them, then we leave. They bleed slow, we win slow. They nodded. No one cheered. They just checked weapons and went to sleep. Far above, Varakthul stared at reports. Casualties rose. Not huge numbers, but steady. Supplies delayed. Walkers repaired too often. Soldiers started to whisper. This world did not break like the others. The others had cities that surrendered, armies that lined up, leaders who begged. Here, no one begged. A junior officer approached carefully. Commander, perhaps we should target their population centers, force them to defend. Varakthul thought. No, they want us to go there. Cities are traps. We take the open land first. Starve them out. But doubt crept in. The scans showed movement everywhere. Not armies, just people. People who refused to stop. On the ground, a lone Krell scout walked through a quiet town in Nebraska. Buildings stood empty. Windows broken. Cars left behind. He stepped carefully, his weapon ready. From a rooftop, a boy named Tyler watched. Tyler was 16. He had a .22 rifle his grandfather gave him. He waited. The scout passed below. Tyler aimed at the neck joint where armor met helmet. One shot. The scout dropped. Tyler ran. He did not look back. Small acts, small wins, but they added up. The Krell kept coming. More ships, more troops. They thought numbers would win. They did not know humans had practiced this kind of fight for thousands of years. Against kings, against empires, against each other. Now, against them. And the planet kept breathing, kept fighting, kept refusing to kneel. They began the invasion of Earth. No one told them who we truly are. The sky over the central United States turned gray with smoke and ash. For months, the Krell had pushed hard. Now they made their final move. Varakthul gathered every ship he had left. Hundreds of landing craft filled the air like dark clouds. They aimed for the heart of North America. The plan was clear. Land everywhere at once. Overwhelm the cities. Break the will of the people. End it. On the ground, humans watched the sky fill. Radios crackled with voices from every state. Fighters checked weapons one last time. Families hugged in basements. Children asked quiet questions. Parents answered with steady voices. Everyone knew this day would come. In a command center deep under Denver, Henry Brooks stood before a wall of screens. Maps showed red arrows moving in from all sides. Blue dots marked human positions. The blue dots did not run. They waited. "They're committing everything," Henry said. "This is their last push." A young officer nodded. "Our forces are spread thin, sir." Henry looked at the map. "Then we make thin strong." Across the continent, people moved into place. In Chicago, fighters took rooftops. In Denver, snipers climbed mountains. In Texas, tank crews waited behind hills. In the east, submarines slipped under the Atlantic. Everyone had a job. The first wave came down over the Great Plains. Dropships touched earth in fields, on highways, near small towns. Walkers stepped out. Soldiers marched in tight formation. They expected fear. They expected surrender. Instead, they met fire. Emma Carter stood on a ridge near Kansas City. Her group had grown to over 200. They carried rifles, rockets, and jammers from Sophia's team. When the first walkers appeared, Emma raised her hand. "Hold." The walkers advanced. Then drones rose from hidden trenches. Thousands of them. Small, fast, angry. They swarmed the walkers like bees. Explosions popped across metal legs. One walker after another fell. The Krell fired back. Plasma bolts burned the sky, but the drones kept coming. Emma's people opened fire. Rockets streaked low. They hit joints and power packs. Walkers toppled. Soldiers tried to form lines, but humans moved in small teams. They flanked. They retreated. They struck again. Farther north, Oliver Grant led a mixed force through city streets in Minneapolis. Buildings stood like broken teeth. Krell troops marched down wide avenues. Oliver's fighters used every corner. They dropped concrete blocks from high windows. They fired from sewers. They used cars as barriers. One street became a graveyard of alien armor. In the west, Sofia Ramirez watched from a hill above Los Angeles. Her jammers covered the basin. Krell comms died in waves. Squads lost contact. Commanders shouted into silence. Sofia smiled for the first time in weeks. "Keep them blind," she said. Her team turned up the power. In the air, old fighter jets rose from hidden runways. Pilots who had not flown in months pushed throttles forward. They met Krell gunships in dogfights. Missiles flashed, planes spun. Some fell, but others scored hits. One gunship after another burned and crashed. Under the sea, submarines waited. When Krell landing ships came low over water, torpedoes struck. Hulls split. Troops drowned before they reached shore. Varrock Thule watched from his bridge. Alarms screamed. Losses flashed red across every screen. His fleet shrank by the hour. "Pull back reserves," he ordered. "There are no reserves left, Commander," an officer said. Varrock Thule stared at Earth. The blue planet glowed below. It looked peaceful, but he knew better now. On the ground near St. Louis, Elijah Thompson led a final stand. His river fighters had boats loaded with captured plasma guns. When Krell troops crossed the Mississippi, the boats opened fire. Blue bolts met blue bolts. The river boiled. Krell landing craft tried to cross. Boats rammed them. Explosions lit the water red. Elijah stood on the deck of his lead boat. A plasma bolt grazed his shoulder. He did not fall. He kept firing. His people fought beside him. They sang old songs between shots. The sound carried over the water. In Washington, President Olivia Grant spoke to the world one last time. Her voice went out on every channel that still worked. "We are here. We are still here. They came to take our home. They found us waiting. Every person who stands today is proof. We do not break. We bend. We fight. We live. To the invaders, go home. Tell your people, Earth is not yours. It never will be." The speech ended. Silence followed. Then cheers rose from hidden places, from rooftops, from trenches, from streets. The Krell line broke. First in small ways. A squad ran. A walker turned back. A ship climbed too fast and left its troops behind. Then bigger. Companies pulled away. Battalions retreated. Fleets in orbit started to move upward. Varak Thul stood alone on his bridge. Officers looked at him. No one spoke. He gave the final order. All ships, withdraw. Full retreat. The fleet rose. Ships climbed through smoke and fire. Some did not make it. Human missiles found them. Explosions bloomed in the sky like flowers. Surviving ships jumped to hyperspace. They left Earth behind. On the ground, quiet fell. Smoke drifted, fires burned low. People stepped out from cover. They looked at the sky. Empty now, clear. Emma walked through her camp. She found Caleb sitting on a crate. He held a broken drone. Tears ran down his face. "We did it," she said. Caleb nodded. "Yeah." In California, Sophia shut down her jammers. She sat on the ground. Her hands shook. Lucas brought her water. She drank. Then she laughed. A small, tired laugh. In the bunker, Henry Brooks turned off the main screen. He looked at his team. "It's over," he said. They did not cheer. They just breathed. Days later, people started to rebuild. Cities cleared rubble. Farms planted again. Factories hummed. Children played in streets. Stories spread. Of the farmer who held a bridge alone. Of the nurse who carried wounded for miles. Of the kid who flew a drone into a walker and lived. In small towns and big cities, people gathered. They told the stories. They remembered the lost. They looked at the sky. No ships came back. Years later, scouts from other worlds would hear the warning. Stay away from the blue planet. Its people are quiet until you push. Then, they'd push back harder. They are death worlders. Fighters. They are human, and they do not forget. On a clear night in Colorado, Liam Harper stood outside his old observatory. Stars filled the sky. He looked up. Somewhere out there, the Krell told their story. A warning. No one told them who we truly are. Now, everyone knew. They began the invasion of Earth. No one told them who we truly are. Weeks passed since the first landings. The Krell controlled wide stretches of open land in many places. They built bases with high black walls and glowing towers. Their ships flew low over fields and rivers, dropping supplies and more troops. Cities still stood, but the invaders stayed away from them for now. They thought time was on their side. They thought hunger and fear would bring surrender. They were wrong. In a quiet industrial park outside San Francisco, Sofia Ramirez worked without sleep. Her garage had become a lab. Tables held pieces of Krell gear, shattered helmets, cracked power cells, burned circuit boards. Wires ran everywhere. Fans cooled hot soldering irons. Her team had grown to 15 people. Engineers, hackers, mechanics, even a retired chemistry teacher named Grace. Sophia held up a small black box. It was a Krell comm relay, pulled from a downed drone. She had taken it apart piece by piece. "This uses quantum encryption," she said to the group. "But their weak point is the handshake. The first signal. We can spoof it." Lucas, one of her helpers, leaned in. "Meaning?" "Meaning we can make their squads hear fake orders, or no orders at all, or send them running into each other." They built the first jammer that night. It looked like a car battery with antennas. They tested it in the parking lot. A captured Krell short-range radio sat on a table. When the jammer turned on, the radio screamed static, then silence. They loaded 10 jammers into vans. Teams drove them to high points around the Bay Area. When Krell patrols moved through nearby hills, the jammers activated. Alien voices cut off mid-sentence. Patrols stopped. Commanders shouted into dead channels. One squad walked straight into an old quarry filled with water. They did not see it until too late. The soldiers swam in heavy armor. Most did not make it out. Reports of these small disasters reached Varak Thul on his flagship. He slammed a fist on the command table. Metal dented. "How do primitives do this?" he demanded. An officer answered carefully. "They learn fast, Commander. They take our broken machines and turn them against us." Varakthul ordered more orbital strikes. Beams fell on empty warehouses and highways. The Krell thought they hit supply lines, but humans had moved supplies days before. The beams only made big holes in dirt. In the Midwest, Elijah Thompson led a group near the Mississippi River. Elijah was older now, but his eyes were sharp. His team used fishing boats and barges to move weapons up and down the river at night. They avoided Krell sensors by staying close to the banks under trees. One night they spotted a Krell supply convoy on the highway. Big trucks carried fuel cells and ammo. Elijah's people waited in the dark. They had made explosives from fertilizer and diesel. Simple, but strong. When the convoy passed under a bridge, charges went off. The bridge collapsed. Trucks tumbled into the water. Fuel cells sparked and burned blue. The Krell sent gunships to hunt the attackers, but Elijah's boats were already gone, hidden in side channels. The gunships found nothing but empty river. Across the ocean, in Europe, Oliver Grant helped lead a mixed force in the hills of northern Italy. Oliver was calm under pressure. He had been a logistics officer before the invasion. Now he planned ambushes like chess moves. His group used narrow mountain roads. Krell walkers were too big for tight turns. Oliver's fighters dropped rocks from above. They used old cable cars to move snipers into high positions. One day they lured a full company into a valley. When the Krell reached the middle, charges blew on both sides. Walls of stone fell. Dust rose like smoke. The company vanished under tons of rock. Varakthul stared at the loss reports. Numbers climbed every day. Not enough to stop the invasion, but enough to slow it. Soldiers started to question orders. Some refused night patrols. Fear spread quietly in the ranks. On the ground, a Krell officer captured a human fighter near Denver. The prisoner was a woman named Ava Mitchell. She was a farmer from a small town. Her hands were rough. Her eyes did not look away. The officer questioned her in a tent. "Why do you fight? Your leaders hide. Your cities burn soon. Surrender and live." Ava smiled a little. "You came to take our home. We were born fighting for home. You don't understand that yet." The officer hit her. She did not cry out. Later that night, resistance fighters attacked the camp. They got Ava out. The officer did not survive. Stories like that traveled fast among humans. They reminded everyone why they kept going. In the Pacific, Noah Ellis led a secret team. They used a small submarine, old but quiet. Their target was a downed Krell cruiser that had crashed on a remote atoll after engine failure. The ship lay half in the water, engines dark. Noah and his divers went in at night. They carried explosives and tools. Inside the ship, corridors were lit by emergency lights. Bodies of Krell crew floated in flooded sections. Noah's team moved to the reactor room. They planted charges on the core. Then they swam out fast. When the charges went off, the cruiser broke apart. A fireball rose into the sky. Pieces rained into the sea. The blast sent a shockwave that knocked out sensors on 3 nearby Krell ships. For a few hours, that part of the fleet was blind. The explosion was seen from islands far away. People on boats cheered. Radio messages spread the news. More would follow. Varakthul felt the loss like a wound. He walked the bridge alone. Stars filled the view screen. Earth glowed below, blue and stubborn. "Why won't they break?" he asked the empty air. No answer came. In cities, life went on under siege. People shared food. Doctors worked without power. Kids learned to hide fast. Old people told stories of past wars to keep spirits up. Everyone helped. A baker made bread for fighters. A mechanic fixed bikes for messengers. A teacher kept classes going in basements so children would not lose hope. The Krell pushed harder. They landed more troops in South America. They took mines and oil fields. But every gain cost more. Walkers broke on rough ground. Soldiers tired. Supplies ran late. In Asia, huge drone swarms rose from hidden factories. Thousands of small quadcopters, built in weeks. They carried tiny bombs or cameras. They flew low and fast. Krell anti-air guns could not track them all. Swarms covered the sky like locusts. They hit fuel depots, command posts, landing zones. One swarm found Varikthul's forward base in Mongolia. Drones dove in waves. Explosions bloomed. The base burned for hours. Varikthul ordered retaliation, but the cost kept rising. Humans did not have the strongest weapons. They did not have the biggest ships. What they had was time, and will, and the ability to turn every mistake of the enemy into a lesson. The Krell had come for conquest. They found something else. They found a species that had spent its whole history surviving the impossible. And now the impossible wore their face. They began the invasion of Earth. No one told them who we truly are. The ocean off the coast of Hawaii was dark and calm. Waves rolled gently under a moonless sky. Noah Ellis crouched on the deck of a small fishing boat. He was 34 now, thinner than before the invasion started. Salt crusted his beard. Around him, 8 divers checked their gear in silence. Oxygen tanks, fins, waterproof bags with tools and charges. The target floated 3 miles out. A Krell heavy cruiser had come down hard weeks earlier. Engine failure during a storm. It lay tilted on a shallow reef, half above water, half below. Most of the crew had died in the crash. The rest evacuated. The ship still held power in its core, enough to light up sensors on nearby Krell vessels. If it blew, that section of the fleet would lose eyes for days. Noah looked at his team. We go in quiet. Plant the charges. Get out fast. No souvenirs. They slipped into the black water one by one. The current was mild. They swam toward the wreck. The hull rose like a broken mountain. Holes gaped where plasma fire had torn metal. Lights still flickered inside some corridors. They entered through a cargo bay. Flashlights cut through the dark. Water filled the lower decks. Bodies floated in slow circles. Krell soldiers in armor, faces frozen in surprise. Noah led the way up slanted halls. His heart beat steady. He had trained for moments like this long before aliens came. They reached the reactor chamber. It was huge. A glowing blue sphere hummed behind thick glass. Pipes ran everywhere. Steam hissed from small leaks. Noah's team spread out. They attached shaped charges to key points. Coolant lines, control rods, power junctions. Simple explosives, made from scavenged mining powder and electronics. Nothing fancy, just enough. One diver, a woman named Claire, worked fast. Charges set, she whispered into her mask mic. Noah checked his watch. 10 minutes to swim clear, go. They moved back the way they came. A sudden tremor shook the ship. Somewhere deep, metal groaned. They froze, then kept going. No time to wonder. Outside they kicked hard toward the surface. The boat waited with engines off. Hands pulled them aboard. Noah counted heads. All 8. Safe. Light it, he said. A man named Diego pressed a remote. Nothing for 3 long seconds. Then the night turned white. A fireball climbed from the wreck. The cruiser split open like a cracked egg. Secondary explosions followed. Debris shot into the sky and fell in burning arcs. The shockwave rolled across the water. The fishing boat rocked hard. Everyone held on. From islands miles away, people saw the glow. They stood on beaches and cheered. Radios crackled with the news. One Krell ship, gone. A big one. In orbit, Varikthul felt the blast through his command chair. Alarms screamed. Screens showed the loss in red. 3 battle groups now blind in that sector. Communications lagged. Orders delayed. He stood, his forearms clenched. Find who did this. Burn their islands. But the damage was done. The loss spread fear through the fleet. Crews whispered. Commanders hesitated. On the ground, the news traveled fast. Fighters smiled for the first time in weeks. In hidden camps, people passed hand-rolled cigarettes and shared stories. The tide felt different. Resistance groups around the world took the signal. Coordinated attacks began at dawn. In the Sahara, local fighters used knowledge of sand and heat. They lured Krell units deep into dunes. Walkers sank in soft patches. When the aliens stopped to free themselves, snipers opened fire from ridges. Dust storms hid the shooters. Krell sensors failed in the heat haze. Units vanished one by one. In the Himalayas, mountain guides led small teams along narrow paths. Krell troops struggled with thin air and ice. Avalanches waited above. One push of snow and rock took out a whole platoon. Bodies tumbled down slopes for hours. In Japan, city fighters used subways and sewers. Krell soldiers were too tall for tight tunnels. Humans moved like rats. They dropped grenades from above. They cut power to alien camps. Lights died. Darkness favored the defenders. In Brazil, river people used canoes and knowledge of floods. They waited for rain. When it came, waters rose. Krell bases built on low ground flooded. Equipment shorted. Soldiers drowned in their own trenches. Everywhere the pattern repeated. Hit fast. Hit smart. Disappear. Veracthul ordered a full push. He committed reserves. Fresh troops landed in North America. The goal was simple. Smash the heart of resistance. Take the Mississippi Valley. Cut the continent in two. But humans were ready. Henry Brooks stood in the bunker. Maps glowed on screens. Blue lines showed human movements. Red lines showed Krell advances. The red lines slowed. We bleed them here, Henry said. Every mile cost them more than us. Forces gathered quietly. Old tanks pulled from museums. New ones built in hidden factories. Drones swarmed from rooftops. Jammers blocked enemy talk. Snipers waited in trees and buildings. The Krell marched forward in columns. Walkers led. Infantry followed. They expected open battle. They got ambushes. Near St. Louis, a bridge waited. Krell engineers checked it. Clear. They crossed. Halfway over, supports blew. The bridge dropped into the river. Walkers fell like stones. Soldiers tried to swim in armor. Most sank. On the far bank, fighters opened fire. Machine guns chattered. Rockets flew. The column broke. Similar scenes played out along highways, in forests, across plains. Krell numbers were large. Human will was larger. In California, Sophia's team sent out new weapons. Small launchers that fired captured plasma rounds. They melted Krell shields after 3 hits. Fighters learned the pattern. Aim low. Aim often. Elijah's river group used barges as floating batteries. They carried anti-air guns taken from old ships. When Krell gunships came low, the barges answered. One gunship exploded mid-air. Pieces rained on the water. Veracthul watched it all from orbit. Losses mounted. Ships pulled back to defend supply lines. Ground forces dug in instead of advancing. Doubt grew into anger. He called his officers. We end this now. Full assault on their main population zones. No more games. But his voice lacked the old confidence. On the ground, a captured Krell soldier sat in a barn. His armor was cracked. Guards watched him. A woman named Ava approached. She brought water. Why keep fighting? The soldier asked in broken English. Ava looked at him. Because this is ours. You don't get to take it. The soldier stared at the floor. For the first time, he felt small. Night fell over ruined fields. Humans moved in shadows. They repaired. They planned. They waited. The Krell fleet hung above like a storm cloud. But storms pass. And humans had learned to dance in the rain.